Well, in this final session, we want to talk about some practical ways that you can not be that American. So, now what do I mean by that American? And sometimes we refer to this as the ugly American syndrome. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, ugly American. Some of you have. When we say ugly American, you know, it's really, we're talking about those things that we tend to do that give us a bad reputation in other cultures. So what would some of those things possibly be? Things that we do outside of our culture, our country, that other countries tend to have problems with. Just shout out some answers. What do you think?
Coming in thinking we're going to fix things.
Yeah. We're the world's policemen. Yeah. What else?
Consumers.
We're what? Consumers? Mm-hmm. Yep. We're loud. Very good. What else?
We're very outspoken about our beliefs.
We are. Yep. What else?
Our way or the highway?
We've got the right answer for everything, don't we? What else? What else gives us this ugly American reputation?
That somehow we're better than like our national pride, and it just makes us think that we're the best country in the world.
Yeah.
Nobody else is ever made.
Man, okay, so the technical term that I want us to use for these are the uglies. It's very technical. But let's call these are the uglies. And how can these uglies hurt your education abroad experience?
Hindering relationships with people who might be put off by.
Okay, yeah, they prevent connection with people. Yeah, what else? How else do you think that some of these uglies can hurt your service or education abroad experience?
If we go into a country with this kind of superior mindset, we won't really ever learn anything because we kind of think, oh, we know it all.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for saying that. The uglies prevent us from learning. And I think they break trust as well. But that's not what we want. Instead of that, what is the impression that you'd like to leave on people after your time with them? How would you like for people who work with you in the 2 weeks or semester that you're overseas, how would you like them to be impacted by you?
I know for me, going into like an educational setting as a student teacher, like I want the students to know that I am a believer because of the way that I treat them in the classroom and not just because I'm helping out at a Christian school.
Good. You want them to see Jesus in you. Yeah. What else?
I want them to think, well, maybe Americans aren't so bad.
Yeah. You want them to feel positive about the experience. Yeah. Maybe even think we should totally have more Indiana Wesleyan students come. Maybe we want them to feel hopeful, or maybe even feel valued, affirmed, get the impression that we enjoy their culture. Avoiding being that American starts with being aware of what ugly you tend to go for, what's your tendency, and then have or choose a posture or strategy that you can use in its place. So I'd like to highlight just 5. There are lots of different uglies. We mentioned some, but I want to highlight a few, 5 that I'd like for you to have on your radar. And actually, do you mind just writing these? And we can actually get rid of this, huh? Oh, just up there. And there's the light. So the first one is loud me. I've been in Bosnia for the last 13 years, and we've had lots of teams come and go. And I, oftentimes when a team comes, we divide them up into small groups of 2 or 3 to keep them from being so loud. Loud me is the, yeah, loud me is the first ugly. And so I remember this one team that we had. We were going around for a city tour. It was a walking tour. It's a small little town. And the groups were in 2 or 3. And everything was going really well until the group I was with saw another group from across the street. And someone from that other group yelled to my group, "Guys, have you been over here yet? They've got CDs for $1." Crossed the street, and I was just like, oh no, horrified. It was loud, very loud. People have said that you hear Americans coming before you see them. Yeah. And why is it that we feel so free to be so loud? I think it's because some of what Dr. Vermillion was talking about, the whole individual versus collective culture. We value our uniqueness. We value being individuals here in the States. But most of the rest of the world is a little more conscientious about how their behavior impacts the whole group. So loud me, that's one of them. And then the second ugly I'd like to highlight is compare and complain. This one sounds like, well, in America, ... fill in the blank. And it's amazing how much you really want to do that because you want to talk about what you know in your context, but it's really easy for you to quickly show the ugly side when you say, well, in America, we do it this way. Or in America, healthcare is like this. Or politics, or housing, or shopping. And then we start comparing and sometimes complaining about how it's not as good here as it is in America. Sometimes that can backfire the other direction as well, where we complain about how bad things are in America to people who actually have it much worse. We had someone visiting our field who really came off quite ugly when she was sharing with a family over a meal about how hard she had it. She was a teacher and she only made like $30,000 a year and she had 2 jobs and she was so tired all the time and she had to use her vacation to take that trip. And her plane ticket cost about $2,000. And here this family is like struggling to find one job, making an average income of $500 a month in a place where unemployment is 45%. Wow, that didn't go so well for her. So compare and complain can really be ugly. And then the third one is English only. There's a joke that's told outside of the States. What do you call, what is someone who speaks 3 languages called? They're multilingual. What is someone who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What is someone who only speaks 1 language? American. So that's not entirely true, but it's often the case. We project this, well, everybody wants to speak English, everyone wants to learn English. I can't, therefore I won't try. Oh, I can't learn that language, so I won't try. And just because a lot of people do want to speak English doesn't mean they don't appreciate when we do make an effort to learn their language. The fourth one is disgust/pity. And I call this one the ew and aw scale. So you might think EWWW, AWWW. It's that spectrum. There are lots of things that, I'm disgusted with your situation and I feel sorry for you. Aww. And then there's, I'm disgusted with your situation and I feel sorry for me and I'm in it. Ew. So both of those are really ugly. Those come off really ugly. I was on a short-term trip from Indiana Wesleyan to Croatia when I was a sophomore in college, and I remember the owner of the little bed and breakfast where we were staying pulled me aside one day and he said, he held a can of liver paste. He said, "What's up with this? Nobody is eating this. Why not?" I was like, "Yeah, we're not real big on the liver paste, liver pate, you know?" And he goes, "Yeah, but no one's even opened a can and tried it." He was offended by that. And then the fifth one I'd like to mention is excessive optimism. Now, this one is like, well, wait a second. I mean, shouldn't we be positive people, right? But a lot of times, our positivity, our I can spirit comes off as insincere. It comes off as maybe not having enough empathy or respect for the seriousness of the situation that some people face. I was guilty of this when we first moved to Croatia, and our language tutor was really struggling. She was educated, she couldn't get a job, and we just kept saying, "Oh, you totally can. You know, think of this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this." And she finally just said, "You guys need to stop that. So easy for you. You can leave any time you want. You have your American passport. It's so easy for you to say there are possibilities, hopes, and dreams. Because you have possibilities. I don't. I'm stuck here." That excessive optimism comes off as ugliness. Well, this isn't what we want. We want to counter these uglies with strategies, with a different posture. And so what I'd like to do now is I'm going to put you into 4 different groups. We're going to do this really quickly. I'm going to count you off into 4s. And when you get into your groups, quickly appoint someone who's going to take notes for your group. And I want you to list as many ideas as you can come up with, practical ones, not theoretical, but what can you do differently to avoid these 5, okay? So you'll have about 3-4 minutes. You can spread out here into the tables if you want, and then we'll come back and talk about those. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, quickly go to your groups. There's 4 tables out here.
I'm a 4, yeah.
Okay.
Are we sitting here or are we going in the hall? Sitting here. Is it just the 4 of us?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I can write. Ah, sweet.
Alright, so,
Okay.
Are you guys 4s?
yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
It was
I thought there was
outside.
probably more of us.
Here, there's this
Yeah.
chair. Because include you.
Okay. So I think it's just going through each of these and just being like, okay, instead of being loud, I can try to be intentional to just, listen and not be loud.
Well, I think her story kind of showed just like a cultural like insensitivity, like just saying, "Oh, that you see there only $1" or whatever." Just so, even if you do like say something loud, like make sure like you're speaking carefully, like what
Yeah.
you say. And I think how you say it too, you should be sensitive to that. But just not what you say shouldn't be offensive, especially in Islam.
Yeah. Just like, I think it all comes down to like valuing the people and the culture and like really like engaging with them. So seeing their strengths, not just coming down on them kind of. More of a joy, I guess.
focus on like learning instead of, you know, only talking about like the whole comparing thing.
Yeah.
But
What?
like what can you learn about their culture?
Yeah, instead of I have this stuff.
Yeah.
What's some practical stuff?
Impractical?
Practical.
Oh, okay.
What's some impractical? Let's talk about.
Well, I think number 2 and 4 can kind of go together a little bit, especially with like the story about the liver paste. I think that just showed, don't complain about something or express disgust if you haven't tried it.
Right.
So I
And I'd
think,
say like be able to get out of your comfort
Okay.
zone.
yeah, be
open
willing
to new
to try
ideas.
new things. And then you can, you know,
But
make
to
your-
someone else or.
yeah. And then I guess in terms of English only, like kind of what we talked about with Dr. Leanne, just like make an effort to learn the language and show that you're actually willing to take a risk. And of course, you say the wrong thing, but it shows that you respect their culture enough to
Right.
want to learn the language.
You have really pretty handwriting.
Thank you. I wrote all my friends' letters like a couple months into school and I sent them to them and I wasn't thinking about it and they all were like, that was the most trouble I've ever had trying to read anything in my life.
Is it
Oh,
cursive?
really?
I love when people write
I
cursive.
know.
Well, a lot of people apparently can't read it, so it's like.
It's funny, I wrote in cursive during the earlier
Oh,
session,
really?
just because I don't know,
Just for
do
fun.
something, yeah.
Okay, wind down here, let's move back
What
in.
about the excessive optimism, like how can we practically avoid that?
Acknowledging
I
your
mean,
reality.
Yeah, I would say acknowledge, yeah, be realistic and like, yeah, humble to like acknowledge that there are differences.
Yeah.
Being positive and like provide hope, but also,
Yeah.
sorry.
Or you can show empathy while also acknowledging the struggles that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think of that too when someone when you're struggling with something and someone's like, oh, yeah, I work on it. Like, no, I actually really don't.
I need someone to just listen and
Yeah, actually.
Okay, so for those of you who are scribes, you get to choose what you think your group's best 2 answers were. Okay, so just look at the list that you have written down and just put a star by your group's best 2 answers, and we want to hear from you. Okay? I've also passed around a handout. I have a feeling that some of my favorite strategies are some of the things that you're going to come up with as well. So as we get those, I will just tell you how to fill in those blanks. So let's hear from group number 1. Who was our note taker? Okay, give us your top 2 strategies that you came up with.
Okay, one thing that someone pointed out that like American quiet may still be loud, so to be extra quiet and to help each other with that, to like not be offended if someone says to be quiet.
Good.
And then to say that like it's not America, so you shouldn't compare because it will be different no matter what.
Very good. Okay, let's hear from another group. What were your top 2? And if she's already said one of your top 2, pick your 3rd one or something. Okay, give us 2 new ones. Group 2?
I tried to pull out ones that kind of connected several of them. We talked about thinking of another person's point of view, how another person is viewing something, and being open and willingness to try new things, and being fearless in that, just like seeking understanding.
Good, excellent. Okay, group 3. What were your top 2?
2 of the things that we talked about, which ironically enough were some of the things that we realized were the worst at, was specifically about the compare and complain, like researching beforehand, like what you're going to be experiencing, or at least getting a general idea, so that when you get there, hopefully you're not constantly comparing, you can narrow it down a little bit, at least settle it. And also like having a journal or something that you can write in, that when you come up to those things, then you're not blatantly saying like, well, this isn't like it is in America, but you could also say, you know what, it is different, but like, how can I still process through that because I am in a different culture rather than just going tell you all about it.
It's not an altogether bad thing to compare, just maybe not verbally, right? Yeah, but I like that. You guys have time, right? You have time to do some research. Okay, and then the fourth group?
So we said, like, think before you speak and choose your words carefully, you know, just like being aware.
Which is excellent advice for anywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Which goes along with a lot of things, like being loud and just complaining, just pretty much everything, just being aware of yourself. And then also focusing on learning while you're there instead of like teaching other people about yourself,
Yeah.
you know.
Very good, very good. There is a lot of overlap. Let me help you fill out the blanks to the form you have there. The first one is be a learner. And that's what you just mentioned here. And go beyond gathering information to understanding and valuing culture. So be a learner. Go beyond gathering information to understanding and valuing culture. Definitely learn about religion and politics and history and economy and all that stuff, but also learn what makes people laugh and cry and get angry. And seek to understand and value the culture. The best way to do this is to learn language. Now, if you're in the country for 14 days, how many days do you think you should be language learners? 14. If you're in the country for 14 weeks, how many weeks do you think you should be language learners? 14. Very good. You guys are smart. The next one is watch and mimic. And Dr. Vermillion gave us a super example of that in his last story, didn't he? That's what he was doing in that dinner. He was watching what other people were doing, and he was recalibrating his actions accordingly. What are some other things that maybe you want to watch besides how people eat?
Greetings.
Greetings, how they greet each other. What else?
How they treat authority figures.
Very good, very good. I think you can watch how people handle public transportation. That's a good one for watch how quiet they are on the bus. And you be quiet there too. Watch where they cut loose. Watch how they dress. That's a huge difference. We tend to be really laid back. But a lot of cultures, they aren't supporting their favorite college team, jeans brand on everything that they wear, you know, on their t-shirts. They're dressing up a little bit more. The third one is to listen more and talk less. And some of you mentioned that already. Listen more and talk less. And this means less comparing, less complaining, less explaining where you're coming from, and more listening and valuing what they have to offer. That ties in with the going as a learner. Sometimes this means that you just smile and nod, but I wouldn't recommend smiling and nodding unless you really understand. But for instance, when someone tells you how awesome their medical care is, and you don't agree, maybe you just don't even need to enter into that compare and debate sort of thing. You just smile and nod. It's okay to not talk about everything. Number 4 is try new things. And I heard that one come up as well. You know, the old adage, when in Rome, do as the Romans. I challenge you, don't turn your nose up to a single food item. What would that be like? You know, that's kind of get rid of that whole, ew, I'm not going to try that. I would encourage you to try everything. Now, don't break your covenant. You know, I said food items, not drink items. But, you know, do they do a siesta where you're going? Start doing a siesta. You know, do they eat the biggest meal of the day at lunchtime and they eat really light meals in the evening? I think you should do that too. Try new things. The 5th one is ask more questions than you give answers. Ask more questions than you give answers. And particularly, I would encourage you to ask yourself questions too. It's called the prior question of trust. Is what I'm doing, thinking, or saying building trust or breaking down trust? And that one will really help you. Asking questions helps you to build trust instead of undermine it. Well, we just have a few minutes left here, and as we close, I want you to think about, pretty soon, before you go for this trip, you're going to pack your bags. And when you pack your suitcase, you're going to intentionally leave some things out, and you're going to take other things with you. And this is, I want you to think about these things. This list here. What from this list is an item that you intentionally need to leave behind so that it doesn't get into the luggage with you? What do you need to just not even take with you on the trip? And then what things from the list in front of you do you need to be very intentional to take with you? Maybe it's one of the ones that's harder for you to practice. You're going to have to really put effort into it to do it. That you say, yeah, I want to make sure I do this and take this one with me. So I just want to give you a second just to maybe mark your papers. What's one from the ugly list that you want to leave out of the luggage? And one from the strategies that you want to be sure and take. Okay, well, thanks for letting me be a part of this today. I'm excited for you all. And I have high hopes that you can go and not be those Americans, but not only represent us well, but represent our Lord well. Sandy, you come?